You have to try this if you own a Polaroid camera. It's a very nice piece of decoration for yourself, or the perfect present to give to someone. A Polaroid on wood. Adding to the unique physicality of a Polaroid, this technique is able to truly elevate your instant photography. But how do you create a wooden Polaroid? Well, obviously you need two things, wood and a Polaroid. Let's start with the wood. You could use plywood, wooden boards or 2x4s. Or if you have a fable for woodworking like I do, you can use part of a tree. While I turn this into some usable boards, let me say a few things. No matter what kind of wood you use, make sure it's nothing too dark. Otherwise, you won't be able to see your Polaroid later. And of course, you don't need all that machinery here. A simple jigsaw and maybe some sandpaper should do the trick. Speaking of jigsaw, I want to add a little ornament to my piece of wood here. So I pulled up some pictures of a violin on my phone. Used some paper, a pencil and a pair of scissors to create a little stencil. I now transfer the shape on the piece of wood. After drilling a small hole, I'm now able to cut out the shape. Finishing it off with some sanding, the base of our Polaroid is done. Now, to create the instant photograph. As you might have been able to work out, the subject of the photograph is going to be a violin. I have this old knockoff Stradivarius here, so that's what I'm going to use. When taking the photograph, make sure you use black and white Polaroid film. It sadly doesn't work with color or Instax. The next step is turning the Polaroid transparent. But before we do that, we have to wait about 10 minutes after exposure. This is important, so don't wait too long. Start by using a knife to cut off the edges. When you're finished with the sides, cut open the bottom like this. Next, cut through those black pieces of tape. Now comes the tricky part, separating the front and back. Do that by bending the front and very slowly separate the two halves. The only thing left to do is to cut off the back. Now, you might have little stains of chemicals on the transparency. This might be because you waited too long after exposure, used expired film or separated the halves too quickly. But don't worry, we're going to remove them during the next step. Before that, cut off everything that's not the picture. Speaking of the next step, it's time to combine the Polaroid with the wood. To do that, you're going to need a water bath at about 40 degrees Celsius. Put in your Polaroid and wait until it starts to wrinkle. Use a soft brush and your fingers to separate the image from the plastic. You can throw away the plastic part and what you're left with is your image floating in water. You now want to bring the piece of wood under the floating image. Fixing the image to wood is a bit tricky though. The easiest way is to start with the edges and then try to get everything straight by submerging only the parts in water that are still crooked. When everything is situated the way you want, you can put away your image to dry. Now, before we get to the final reveal, if you liked this video so far, maybe consider liking or subscribing. But let's continue. I have to say, I'm quite pleased with the outcome. It truly is a very unique object. You could easily use it as a piece of decoration or as a gift card by writing something on the back using a Sharpie or maybe a burning iron. Other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this short video and maybe found something interesting or inspiring. As always, I want to encourage you to run wild with these ideas. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments. Until then, see you next week.